my name is Laura Savage, and today's show is on the Hartford Tree Board. And I'd like to thank Cat TV and 2 members of the Hartford Tree Board coming out to do the show. Before we get started, I did a little research, and I have some facts about trees that people might be interested in. It is a perennial plant. There are about 60,000 species of trees in the world. And trees have been around for 370 million years. And they are very important to humans and wildlife and to the planet because they give off oxygen, they provide shelter, wood, paper, and for birds and animals and fruit. And they're just good things to have in the world. So this is about trees and the Hartford Tree Board. So, with that being said, I'll have my guests introduce themselves and tell me a little bit about themselves.
Hi, I'm Jeff Arnold, and my wife and I own a daycare center on Christian Street, which is right across from Brookside Nursing Home, which was closed. It's been closed for like 4 years. And I have been a member of the tree board for over 1 year.
I'm Karen Watson. My husband and I live in Wilder. I've been on the tree board for 4 years. I love trees. I guess that's why I'm on the board.
Well, I think what we want to talk about is that there's a tree and shrub sale coming up tomorrow. You usually have it in the spring, right?
Yep, in the spring. Arbor Day is usually in the spring.
It's generally the first.
But because of COVID, you had to.
First weekend in May.
Yeah, but because of COVID, you had to change it.
That's right.
And it's a great opportunity for people to come and learn about different types of trees. Specifically, we are encouraging planting native trees as opposed to introduced trees, and shrubs as well.
That's our biggest fundraiser of the year. And since one of our mission points or objectives is to plant trees around town, we need to make money. So not only do we need to make money by selling trees at Arbor Day, but we're looking for grants and anybody else who would like to support us. We try to plant at least 2 trees a year. We just planted 3 at the town hall, and that cost us over $1,000.
Wow.
To honor Leo Puller, who was our last town manager.
Yes, and what kind of trees are there?
One's a tulip tree, one's a gum tree, or tupelo. They have to, and one is a black walnut.
And one question: how else do you get funding for?
That's the only way we get funds.
And you also sell T-shirts and
that's true.
And prints,
and
which are very beautiful,
like
right here.
That was made by the original member, by the.
What's her name? Let's see, Jody Turner.
We are designated Tree City USA, which we have achieved that status for over 15 years every year.
Yes.
But the requirements are that we start with a tree board, and we have an ordinance that we will care for and maintain trees throughout town. And the other stipulation is that the board gets funded, through the town, of $2 per capita. So it's a small amount, but it goes from the actual town funds, I believe. Money goes to do pruning and maintenance to protect the visual aspects of our town, the landscaping and the upkeep and the removal in some cases. For example, we have a big worry right now that the emerald ash borer could conceivably, like in other towns, take over and devastate our ash trees. So our prior tree warden prepared a an emergency preparedness plan and how to deal with that. And that requires, obviously, funds.
Okay. Now, the tree warden, is he part of the town, or is he part of the Hartford Tree Board?
He's actually a volunteer.
Oh.
Yeah, he doesn't get paid, but he gets a budget of $5,000 every year.
Oh.
Or that's what he's had in previous years. And I don't know where this $2 per capita has gone, or I've never seen it. Maybe we get $5,000 for him specifically just to prune trees. Mm-hmm. That's what he uses all the money for. But if we could get $2 per capita, we would be so rich. We would have $20,000 a year in our bank account.
I think it's conceivable. We're not experts on this, but I think it's conceivable to assume that Parks and Recreation and Public Works some of their funds on occasion have got to go and help us out. So I think that's where some of this comes from. The $2 per capita is a stipulation on the part of Arbor Day Foundation in order to qualify for Tree City USA.
Okay, so Tree City, they have Tree City USA all over the country.
That's right.
Different. So Hartford is a Tree City USA.
You have to qualify. You have to meet the requirements.
Yes, meet the requirements, which you do. Well, that's good.
So practically speaking, the board, the money we spend as a board is generally raised from these fundraising events.
So we have Tree City USA, the Arbor Day tree and shrub sale.
I would like to mention how this all got started. And I would start with the quote that may have been Margaret Mead, I'm not sure. Never underestimate the power of determined citizens when they want to get something accomplished. And about 20 years ago, a group of determined citizens got together and said, what can we do to make downtown Hartford Village more beautiful? And they found out that they had to establish a tree logo, a logo which was Trees Matter, and they came up with a plan and filed a grant, and they got some money, and they planted 4 honey locust trees in downtown Hartford. And if you can picture these commercial buildings with no landscaping as opposed to what it looks like now, you can see how they got something really off the ground.
You maintain the trees you plant, and then you have like in the parks, and the Hartford Park and Rec takes care of the trees in the parks.
Actually, they use our budget to do a lot of that pruning. So there's lots of trees in Maxfield, for example, that we didn't plant, but we prune. And there's trees along the hill going to Hartford High School that we didn't plant, but we pay for the pruning, or the tree warden's budget pays for the pruning.
We're concerned about public trees that really add to the visual beauty of our community.
And then you also have the Tree of the Month.
The Tree of the Month was a program that Claire Forsyth, who is your good friend, came up with to educate people about different trees around town. And so she made a really nice sign, and she has a description of the tree on the sign. And she places the sign next to the tree, usually in a public area. We've had them in Maxfield, which they're not necessarily right next to the road. So in Maxfield, you'd had to get out of your car and walk down the path around the baseball fields. And we leave them up for 3 months. So if we put up one in September, we take it down in January. And we've been doing that now for I don't know, about a year.
Somebody recently said, gee, I have some wonderful childhood memories about an oak tree by the Wilder School. Could you possibly honor that tree one month? And we have done that. And there's been one out at the West Hartford Library on the Queechee Green. We're trying to spread it throughout all the villages.
So, and you got started about 20 years ago. As a group. That sounds good.
It started out as Trees Matter, and then it evolved into the Tree Board, an actual formal relationship with the town.
Okay, so that pretty much covers the Tree Board and what it's about.
Well, we didn't talk about our tree identification walks very much so far. We hold 3 of those every year, one in the spring, one in the summer, and one in the fall usually. This spring's was canceled because of COVID. And so we invite people from all the towns around here in the Upper Valley. We reach out to them, and people come and learn how to identify trees that are native to the area, and some, others that are ornamental trees that have been planted, like king crimson, maple, and so forth.
It's a very useful tool for the tree board because we have to do some research, and we usually do a pre-walk the week before with our tree warden, who helps us make sure we're getting the trees right.
What made you want to serve on the tree board? And I think you already said that. And how long have you been on the board?
I attended a tree identification walk in downtown Hartford Village, and was just amazed by the enthusiasm and the willingness people had to share their knowledge about trees and their love of trees. and they encouraged me to attend a board meeting, and I did, and signed up from there.
I joined once I saw there was an opening on the tree board. I decided to apply because I enjoy trees, learning about trees, and know how important it is to plant them around the town for cooling, for cleaning, getting rid of pollution, preventing erosion, so many other reasons.
Yeah, they're very beautiful and a source of a lot of inspiration for artists and poets and to write about.
Also for landscaping, because we get involved, up along Sykes Avenue, there's been a lot of construction.
Oh, yeah.
And we try to make sure that there are plantings in front of those places.
Oh, yeah.
So that it's just not all cement.
Yeah.
So that's another great benefit of trees, is that they
I would like to add
beautify
that the tree
buildings.
board is only an advisory group. We do not have any teeth, so to speak, but we can advise the select board or the Conservation Commission and tell them what our preferences are. And just picture on a hot summer day, for example, standing in the middle of a concrete parking lot with no trees. A car lot does come to mind because I've recently been at one. Not to single them out, as opposed to one that has spacing of trees and shrubs throughout it that can
I know,
cool
that
things
makes
down.
it a lot better. And
it's-
shade, yep, definitely.
It's more restful and less stressful, I would say.
The temperature of LA has gone up 6 degrees in 50 years, because they've cut down all the trees. I mean, and it actually business is better where their trees are planted in town. Streets that are leafy
Really? Oh, yeah. Well, I would
draw
assume
more
so,
business.
Yeah. In your opinion, what are 2 to 3 of the most important facts for the general public to know about trees?
Well, first of all, in the photosynthesis process, trees produce oxygen for us, and they take in carbon dioxide.
Right. That was even some environmentalists even said if we plant millions and millions of trees, we can counter all the pollution that man is making. Of course, it's a huge effort to do that, but that's why we're always promoting trees.
We don't hear about this often, but trees are a wonderful way to filter water, runoff and other water, and it cleanses our water supply. So that's another important reason. They can also, when planted along riparian buffers near streams and ponds, they can slow down erosion, help with that. And of course there's the aesthetic quality of trees.
They're beautiful.
And the calming. I mean, now we
Yes.
hear about, is it nature washing? What is it the Japanese are doing?
Well, I
Nature-
saw
I don't know,
I
but
read something-
forest bathing. Forest bathing.
Yeah.
But there are studies that show that it does relieve people who have anxiety,
Yeah.
and autistic kids are relieved by being in a forested environment.
Coping with this pandemic.
Yeah.
Yesterday I happened to be hiking behind Dothan Brook School, and there's a pretty much wild forest down behind the school, and all the classrooms now, every class has an area set up, and most of them have tarps over them and little tree stumps to sit on and little blackboards set up. I think this might be a magnificent benefit for children to experience the out of doors, and hopefully to be learning more about their natural world around them.
Yeah.
Queechee Elementary also has a program like that. They used to, where they take kids out into the forests. I think a lot of schools, like in Norwich, if you go over to their elementary school, they've got the forest right next to the school, and there's paths all the way through it, and the kids from the school go there all the time.
And at this time of the year, they're all turning color, so that's nice.
An added benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they tell us the seasons.
Do you feel the general public appreciates the tree board activities or knows about the tree board?
More and more we are hearing from people who say, I didn't know Hartford had a tree board, and we didn't know about these trees, and we've had a very positive response.
But we get a lot of advertising from the rec department about our Arbor Day, so we get noticed there.
How are they intertwined with the tree board?
So Scott Hauser, he's an ex officio member just because they figured that we're related, because there's trees in all the parks. So he's automatically a member. He's the director of the rec department,
Yes.
and he's also a member on the tree board.
And he's been extremely supportive of the board, and I think tomorrow he's going to be lugging trees for us.
7 o'clock in the morning, he's getting up to help us out.
Okay, you've talked about what is it, EAB, the ash? That's
Emerald
a threat.
ash borer.
That's a threat to the trees now.
And that,
Not all trees,
Not all
just
trees.
ash trees.
yeah, that I wanted to bring up the fact that another person who's extremely supportive of the tree board is our tree warden. And for 15, or at least 15 years, Brad Goodcoop was our tree warden, and he established an emergency preparedness plan for the emerald ash borer. And last summer, after a great deal of research and coordinating with Little Tree, who's a certified to detect the emerald ash borer, the EAB, and other foresters in the area, he presented a plan to the select board so that if and when the ash borer comes in here and starts to devastate trees, what's our plan? Some towns tear down these trees proactively before it hits so that they can use the lumber. And Brad, who has done a digital inventory of trees in Hartford, identified, I think there are 63 ash trees in the town of White River. And he, with the help of his committee, identified 16 or 17 that he thought would be worth saving by using perhaps pesticides for a year or two. And Jeff probably knows where those trees are better than
Well,
I.
we actually, our tree board, planted ash trees in Veterans Park right across the river from here.
Oh, yes.
And so we'd certainly like to protect them if they do get attacked by...
When did you plant those?
What year was that?
Because I go by there every day. Are
They're right on
They're
the
pretty
sidewalk.
large. I think
They're
they've
out.
been there for ever since the park was
There.
built.
Yeah, I've lived here for 14 years, and I guess they were there the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Good.
got that.
When
we
when
did
they made
through a
that
grant.
park, you
The
planted
first
some.
trees we planted were the ones that Karen talked about, the ones in Hartford Village.
Yeah,
those
the
are honey
locust
honey
trees, the
locusts.
honey
Yeah,
locust
honey
trees.
locusts. But it's
Okay.
very expensive to treat ash trees with the medicine necessary to keep them away.
So when you plant a tree, you have to water it every day and take care of it until it becomes mature.
Not until it becomes mature.
I
That,
know.
you know,
The first
they
year is
live.
the most critical.
But you
Many
have to
years.
take care of it.
Yes.
Like what do you do? How do you plant a tree and make it grow?
We were extremely fortunate on the trees that we planted in honor of Leo Pullar to have the assistance of Jim LaMontagne and his tree crew, who actually brought their heavy equipment in and brought these trees over and planted them for us and showed us how to water them, and they put little tree water bags on them. So we were the recipients of a real generous gift from Mr. LaMontagne.
So trees have roots. You have to dig a hole and put them in and water them for a while.
And you got to make sure, because usually when you're sold a tree, a lot of times they become root bound, which means that the roots just go around in circles and they kind of strangle the tree. So when you take them out of the pot, you got to spread out all the roots before you plant them in the ground. That's very important to do, as well as water them. Not for you water them through the initial 2 or 3 months.
Oh yes, 2 or 3 months.
And then they should be fine.
After Tropical Storm Irene, the tree board planted
Yes.
3 trees at Watson Park.
Oh,
Because
good.
that park
That
was
park got
pretty
wiped out. Yeah,
and they were a horse chestnut, a catalpa, and a sycamore.
nice. Are the trees donated or do you buy them?
No, we buy them. Most of the time we buy
You should
them.
donate them.
Sometimes they get donated. Like I think Intervale.
We accept donations.
Yeah, of course.
Did
yeah.
Intervale donate those trees?
No, we bought them.
Yeah, but they sell them for a very low price because they're a nonprofit, and one of their missions is to protect the edges of rivers from getting eroded.
What I'm very excited about, and we haven't mentioned, is that our little tree board established its own nursery over at Maxfield Sports Complex.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So last year we bought some seedlings from what Jeff mentioned, Intervale Nursery. It's a nonprofit up in the Burlington area. brought them down, and we'll be selling them this year. They've just really done amazingly well. Sycamores, paper birch, what else, Jeff? Cottonwoods, paper birch.
Here's our list. We have 4 rows. We have about 40 trees in our nursery right now.
Wow, that's a lot. That's good. You're doing a lot.
So we had some white oaks as well, and the sycamores that you mentioned, the service berries. We have a horse chestnut and some dogwoods.
We have some red maples, and here's the conundrum that we face. Red maples are an overrepresented tree in this state.
Mm-hmm.
From a tree warden's perspective, they say, look, we want to do better with diversity and not have too many white pine or too many red maples. But we have them to sell. So on the premise that one tree is better than no tree, we will be selling some that are overrepresented.
Very cheap.
Our treasurer speaking.
Actually, all our shrubs and everything, we've kept the price down below $50 for everything that we're selling. And a lot of the stock comes from Northern Nurseries, which is a wholesaler, and they're giving us wholesale prices in order to help us out.
Northern Nursery annually has been extremely supportive of the tree board.
Can I call the tree board for advice about trees on my property?
Sometimes people get in trouble and they cut down a tree on public property, which has happened in the past, and so we don't really get involved in that, but the tree warden has some capacity to do that, because he's actually in state statute, his job, which is to make sure that public trees aren't all cut down and
so you pretty much deal with just your trees, not private people's trees.
Hopefully we are in a position where we can advise them to whom they should talk
to. Yes. You could probably help them out a bit. Do either one of you work with other organizations?
We work with the Conservation Commission. Mm-hmm. We worked with the Boy Scouts. We had an Eagle Scout make plaques for a lot of the trees in Maxfield. We work with Tree City USA, which is a nonprofit, Intervale, which is a nonprofit, Northern Nurseries, which is a for-profit, and who else?
The Department of Public Works has also been very supportive.
And the rec department.
Do you have your own nursery?
Well, just this year I found an apple tree. My house, it used to be a big farm. I mean, still the barns are there, and it used to cover maybe 500 acres, and then it got gradually cut down. When the owner died in '64, they sold off most of the farm, and then they developed it. So now there's like 1,000 people living on the land, and then there was 10 acres left, and now there's only 2 acres left. And the other day, I was cutting down some box elders, which are these trees that grow all over the place, and they make a mess. So I was cutting some down, and I discovered an apple tree there that had the most delicious apples, and I think it's a rare heirloom apple from the farm's heyday. So I cut all the apples in half and took out all the seeds, and I'm going to plant them and start We'll grow some of them in our nursery, and I'm going to grow some in my own nursery.
Oh, nice.
Can I ask, Jeff, what was the comment you just made about that box elder?
I think they're messy.
Messy tree, okay. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and one of my favorite trees is the black locust. And yet a lot of people, foresters especially, don't care for black locust. They spread a lot, and they don't have a good wood that you can split easily or use for furniture making. Yeah. But black locust is the tree that stunned John Muir into becoming a naturalist. Oh. So John Muir found the black locust beautiful. Many people today don't find it beautiful, but it just depends on your perspective, what you expect from that tree.
They're good for Halloween trees. They look very haunting.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And they have really, really deep furrows in their bark.
Oh.
They're a cool tree.
And when I kayak on the Connecticut River along the shore, it's really great to be right underneath the beautiful blossoms in the spring, or as Jeff says in the winter now, this haunted look among their branches. You could just almost picture a witch riding up through the branches. We do have a couple of show and tell projects for you.
Okay, okay.
Anybody know what this is?
No.
Close. Well, sort of close.
Is it a chestnut? American chestnut?
It's an American chestnut. And
Wow.
interestingly, there's an American chestnut tree growing behind the Hartford Historical Society. And I'm guessing, I'm not sure, that American chestnuts used to be one of our major trees throughout the United States. And then the blight came and have wiped them out. But the Historical Society, there are some offshoots of it now that are growing. I'm guessing that they planted this in honor of past history. And what this nut is edible. I brought another nut which is poisonous, and this is the horse chestnut, this particular one. And just as a funny story, I had them in the car recently, and my husband got in and he thought, oh, Karen left me a nice little cookie that the kind that I like, and he reached over to grab it, and it's got quite a few prickers on it, so he quickly learned this was not a cookie for him to eat.
We have butternuts also that are nut producing. The black walnut, by the way, that was planted across the way by town hall, they produce nuts that are edible, and actually the biggest place where they harvest the most of them naturally from natural trees is in Missouri. And what I brought was
It looks like a
so this
maple?
is
No?
no.
Oak?
Take another guess. You got
Oak, ash?
tree. Oak tree.
Oak tree.
And the reason I brought it is to show that the stems come out at alternating. So there's a one here, a leaf up here. But whereas if you look at a maple tree, these leaves come up off opposite each other. All of them are opposite. So that's one way that you can identify maple trees, ash trees, and dogwood trees. All the leaves come up opposite each other.
One of the very first clues when you're trying to figure out what am I looking at is, first and foremost, you ask, is it an alternate branch or an opposite branch?
So that's how you identify a tree. You look at the leaves?
Well, you narrow
That's
down the
one way.
idea.
That's you can eliminate all the maples, ashes, and dogwoods if it's alternate branching.
Okay.
And this is only deciduous trees. We haven't even discussed conifers yet. But that's what makes trees identification so interesting, because there are always exceptions. And you think an evergreen, like a white pine, it's always green. It's constantly shedding its needles, though. And then you get exceptions to those conifers, like a tamarack, which sheds all of its needles in the winter. In fact, one year when I moved to a new house, I thought I had a dead tree, and I took it down. It was a tamarack, so ever since then I've been trying to repay that and planting more tamaracks. And there is one, a beautiful one at Dothan Brook School that is flourishing, that we planted.
So if you learn a little bit about tree structure, you can understand better what the emerald ash borer does to trees. Because you have the bark right on the outside, then you have the next layer is phloem, which transfers nutrients that have come down from the leaves into the cambium layer, which is the layer that produces new sapwood, which is the wood that carries the water to the top of the tree, which is also called xylem. And then after that is the heartwood. So after sapwood is the heartwood. The heartwood is basically dead. It just gives the tree structure and holds it up. So what happens is this insect will basically cut off all the nutrients from moving up and down from the roots to the leaves and from the leaves to the roots. It's like
So it kills
they
the
call
tree.
it girdling. It kills the tree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff and
Karen.
Karen for being here. And thank you. Okay,
Thank you, Laura.
bye.